Quirinus Quirrell. The very first true on-screen death comes with Professor Quirrell, the nervous defense against the dark arts teacher hiding Voldemort beneath his turban. For most of the film, he's comic relief, stuttering, timid, easily overlooked. But in the climax, his mask drops. Quirrell is revealed as Voldemort's host, and he goes after Harry to seize the Sorcerer's Stone. What kills him isn't a spell or a curse, it's Harry himself. Because Lily Potter's sacrifice left Harry protected by love, Quirrell's body literally burns when he touches him. His skin peels away, Voldemort's spirit rips free, and Quirrell collapses into ashes. It's a chilling death, and an early reminder that Voldemort destroys everyone he uses. Frank Bryce. One of the most shocking deaths we see in the Harry Potter films belongs to someone who, in truth, had no part in the Wizarding War at all. Frank Bryce, the elderly Muggle caretaker of the Riddle House, is just a man doing his job, keeping watch over a house with a dark history. One night, he notices a light flickering inside the supposedly empty manor and goes in to investigate. What he finds is chilling. Voldemort, still in his weak, twisted form, plotting his return with Wormtail at his side. Frank isn't a threat. He isn't an aura or a wizard, or even someone who truly understands what he's stumbled into. But that doesn't matter to Voldemort. The moment Frank overhears too much, Voldemort casually utters the killing curse. In an instant, Frank collapses, lifeless. For the first time, the audience sees death on screen, and it feels unsettlingly real. Charity Burbage. Charity Burbage's death isn't about battle, it's about cruelty. A professor of Muggle studies at Hogwarts, she's dragged into the Death Eater meeting in the Malfoy Manor ballroom, suspended above the table like prey. Her crime? Writing about the equality of Muggles and wizards. She pleads with Snape, her colleague, for help, but he stays silent. Voldemort toys with her desperation, then casually murders her in front of his followers. Nagini devours her body on the table while the Death Eaters watch. The entire scene is designed to show Voldemort's mercilessness. This isn't war, it's terror, humiliation, and dominance. Her death sets the tone for Deathly Hallows. Voldemort's world is not just dangerous, it's sadistic. Alistair Mad-Eye Moody, the grizzled veteran aura, always gruff and always paranoid, doesn't even get a heroic on-screen fight. During the escape of the Seven Potters, Moody is ambushed by Voldemort. We never see it, but his death is reported later when the survivors regroup. For the Order of the Phoenix, Moody was the hardened warrior, the one who'd survived countless battles. His death proved how dangerous Voldemort's forces had become, and while the audience doesn't get the closure of watching his last stand, his off-screen death serves as a sobering reminder. In war, even the toughest don't always get a dramatic exit. Vincent Crabbe. Not all deaths in Harry Potter are noble sacrifices. Crabbe's demise is self-inflicted. During the Battle of Hogwarts, inside the Room of Requirement, he panics and unleashes Fiend Fire, a cursed fire so destructive it consumes everything in its path. He quickly loses control, and the flames engulf him before he can escape. What's ironic is that his own reckless cruelty ends up destroying him. The fire even almost kills Harry, Ron, and Hermione. In a twisted way, Crabbe's death accidentally helps bring Voldemort down. James and Lily Potter. Though we only ever see their deaths in flashbacks, James and Lily Potter's murder is the spark that ignites the entire saga. Voldemort kills James instantly, then turns on Lily, who throws herself in front of Harry. Her sacrifice weaves a magical protection into Harry's very blood, the shield that makes him the boy who lived. They're gone before the story even begins, but their absence defines everything. Harry grows up an orphan, his longing for family woven into every choice he makes. And their sacrifice becomes the blueprint for the series' greatest theme. Love is the most powerful magic of all. Cedric Diggory. Cedric's death is often remembered as the moment Harry Potter grew up. Cedric isn't an enemy or a villain. He's talented, kind, and fair, the sort of student everyone respects. Throughout the Triwizard Tournament, he and Harry share a sense of camaraderie. They help each other, they compete with honor, and when they both grab the Triwizard Cup, it seems like they'll finish as equals. But the cup is a trap. It transports them straight into Voldemort's graveyard, and in the blink of an eye, everything changes. Harry and Cedric barely have time to realize where they are before Voldemort coldly orders Wormtail to kill the spare. Cedric doesn't get a heroic duel or a last stand, just a flash of green light, and he's gone. The brutality of it hits hard because it's so senseless. Cedric's death isn't about him, it's about sending a message. Voldemort doesn't care who you are or what you stand for. If you're in his way, you're disposable. Sirius Black. Losing Cedric was brutal, but Harry still had hope in Sirius, his godfather, his last true family. Sirius represented a second chance, a connection to his parents, and maybe even a future outside the Dursleys. That's what makes his death at the Department of Mysteries so devastating. During the chaotic battle between the Order of the Phoenix and the Death Eaters, Sirius fights with skill and fire. For once, Harry isn't alone. He's side by side with family. But then, in an instant, he's taken away. Bellatrix Lestrange hits him with an Avada Kedavra, and Sirius falls backward into the mysterious veil. He doesn't scream, he doesn't struggle, he just disappears, swallowed by the unknown. The sad part is that Harry can't even properly grieve because it happens so suddenly. He screams Avada Kedavra for Sirius, runs after Bellatrix to get revenge, but Remus Lupin holds him back. The raw pain on Harry's face tells us everything. He's just lost the one person who truly understood him. Albus Dumbledore. Few moments in the entire series land as heavily as the death of Albus Dumbledore. Up until this point, he had been untouchable, the guiding light of Hogwarts, the one wizard Voldemort feared. To most, he felt immortal, the fatherly figure who always had the answers. That's why his fall at the Astronomy Tower still shocks, even when you know it's coming. After retrieving a Horcrux with Harry, Dumbledore is left weak, poisoned, and barely able to stand. When Draco Malfoy finally corners him, we expect the headmaster to fight back. But instead, he lowers his wand and speaks softly, choosing compassion over resistance. Even as a weakened old man, he shows bravery, not through power, but through mercy. Then Snape steps in. He raises his wand and delivers the killing curse. The blue light flashes, and Dumbledore falls from the tower, lifeless. Students and teachers raise their wands in mourning as his body rests below, marking one of the most haunting images in the series. Hedwig. Sometimes it's not the powerful wizards who leave the deepest scars. Hedwig's death is short, almost easy to miss in the chaos of the Seven Potters battle, but it cuts deep because of what she represents. From the very first movie, Hedwig had been more than just an owl. She was Harry's first true friend in the wizarding world. She carried his letters, watched over him, and symbolized his connection to magic itself. She was constant, loyal, and elegant, always by his side. So when a Death Eater's curse strikes her down as Harry flees Privet Drive, it feels like the end of something much larger. Hedwig's death isn't just about losing a pet, it's about losing innocence. It's the symbolic end of Harry's childhood and the beginning of all-out war. Dobby. If Hedwig's death represents lost innocence, then Dobby's represents sacrifice. And for many fans, it's the single most heartbreaking moment of the saga. Dobby, the free elf, was never meant to be a central figure, but his courage, loyalty, and childlike heart made him unforgettable. After helping Harry years earlier, he returns at a crucial moment, rescuing Harry, Ron, and Hermione and others from Malfoy Manor. In that desperate escape, as they apparate to safety, Bellatrix Lestrange throws a dagger. It strikes Dobby just as they land on the beach. The scene slows down. Dobby collapses in Harry's arms, whispering his final words. Such a beautiful place to be with friends. And then he's gone. Just like that, the little elf who once spoke in squeaks and mischief dies a hero. Severus Snape. Snape's death is one of the most layered in the series because it forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew about him. For years, he's been the cold, bitter teacher, the man who bullied Harry, who seemed to despise him, and who murdered Dumbledore with his own hands. By the time Voldemort turns on him, most of us aren't sure whether to trust him or hate him. But Voldemort, blinded by ambition, believes Snape is the master of the Elder Wand, and that makes Snape disposable. In the Shrieking Shack, Voldemort doesn't even raise his wand. He lets Nagini do the work, ordering her to strike. It's brutal, intimate, and slow. Harry and his friends can only watch from the shadows as Snape collapses, his life bleeding out onto the floor. And then, everything changes. In his final moments, Snape doesn't beg for his life. He doesn't confess his sins. Instead, he gives Harry a vial of memories. His last words are simple but haunting. "Look at me." For Snape, it's the one chance to see Lily Potter's eyes, the woman he loved until his final breath. Fred Weasley. Fred's death hits differently. Unlike Dumbledore or Snape, he wasn't a mentor or a mystery. He was family. For 7 books, Fred and George were a constant source of joy, laughter, and mischief. They were the heart of the Weasley family, always together, always joking. That's why losing Fred feels like losing light itself. It happens during the Battle of Hogwarts, in the chaos of explosions and spells flying everywhere. There's no grand duel, no drawn-out farewell, just sudden devastation. An explosion rips through the corridor and Fred is gone. One second he's smiling, mid-laugh with his brother, and the next, silence. What makes Fred's death so cruel is the timing. Moments earlier, he was joking with Percy, who had just reconciled with the family. It felt like a healing moment, like things were finally coming together. And then, in a blink, it's all ripped away. Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks. Some deaths in Harry Potter are loud, dramatic, and unforgettable. Lupin and Tonks' deaths are the opposite. They happen quietly, almost in the background, but that's what makes them cut so deeply. When the dust of the battle settles, we see them lying side by side, hands inches apart, lifeless. No big duel, no final words, just 2 brave fighters cut down in the fight for freedom. It's the stillness that hurts. One moment they were part of the chaos, the next they're simply gone. The tragedy is sharper because of what they leave behind. Their son Teddy. Born in the middle of a war, he'll grow up without his parents, just as Harry did. In fact, J.K. Rowling intentionally mirrored Harry's childhood through Teddy, showing that history has a cruel way of repeating itself. Colin Creevey. Colin's death is one of those quiet moments you almost miss if you don't look closely, but that's what makes it so powerful. He was never a major player, never a great warrior, just the eager kid who idolized Harry from day one. The boy who carried a camera everywhere, who marveled at magic like it was the most incredible thing in the world. During the Battle of Hogwarts, Colin shouldn't have even been there. He was underage, too young to fight, but he came anyway, because he believed in the cause, in Harry, in standing up to Voldemort. And it cost him everything. We don't see his death on screen. Instead, after the fighting slows, his body is carried inside the castle, pale and still. It's a brief shot, but it cuts deep. Nagini. Nagini's death is different. It's less about heartbreak and more about triumph. She's not just Voldemort's pet snake. By this point, she's one of his final Horcruxes, the last tether keeping him immortal. Killing her isn't just a victory, it's the key to ending the war. The honor falls to Neville Longbottom, and that's what makes it so satisfying. Neville, the boy who once struggled with spells, the underdog nobody expected to shine, steps forward when the world needs him most. As Voldemort's forces swarm Hogwarts, Neville draws the sword of Gryffindor, and with one powerful strike, decapitates Nagini. The moment is cinematic, almost operatic. The sword flashing in the firelight, the hiss cut short, Voldemort's scream of rage echoing through the hall. It's not just the death of a snake, it's the unraveling of Voldemort's immortality. Lord Voldemort. And then, at last, the end of the Dark Lord himself. Voldemort's death is the culmination of everything. Years of prophecy, loss, and sacrifice, leading to this one moment. The final duel between Harry and Voldemort is less about wand work and more about destiny. Voldemort, convinced the Elder Wand is his, throws everything he has at Harry. But what he never understood is that wands aren't won by fear, they're won by loyalty, and the Elder Wand was never his. When Voldemort casts the Killing Curse and Harry counters with Expelliarmus, the spells collide. For a brief binding moment, it looks like the same duel that killed Harry's parents all those years ago. But this time, the outcome is different. The curse rebounds, Voldemort's own magic turns against him, and then he's gone. No grand speech, no last words, just ash blowing away in the wind. After years of terror, his end feels almost anticlimactic. And that's the point. For all his power, for all his obsession with immortality, Voldemort dies like anyone else. In the end, he was never truly invincible. His death isn't just a victory, it's a closure. It's the release of fear that haunted the wizarding world for decades. And for Harry, it's the end of the war that defined his life.